Welcome to the home of the Julian Assange Defence Society. It's exciting to be here. I'm sorry, the head of BBC4 has been unavoidably detained in an incident involving an airport, twin babies and a trip to Australia. So you can be sure that you're going to be having a nicer evening than him. I'd just like to introduce Nick Fraser and Meta and everyone else here who's been involved in Why Poverty, and say that BBC4 and the BBC are really pleased to be hosting this series of films in partnership with a huge alliance of global broadcasters. I think they've done two very clever things here, which I'd just like to draw to your attention. One is to take an issue which obviously is kind of global in its scope and significance, and to create a broadcast and multimedia initiative that reflects that. And I know everyone here is smiling at the moment, but that must have been really difficult to pull off. So I'd like to congratulate everybody for doing that. I think the other thing to say is that there's a horrible danger with these kind of things, that the intentions are great, but the films that come out the other end can kind of turn into a kind of mush. And I think having seen all the films, the thing I'd say is that they're all a really striking set of individual pieces of filmmaking with very different voices and very different perspectives. That's an absolute tribute to all the filmmakers who've been commissioned, but also a tribute to all the people who've pulled this together. So I hope you enjoy the film tonight, and Nick will explain further about everything involved. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Adam. It's very generous. It feels like a huge extended family gathering here, which is as it should be, because everything originated for this project, though I'll explain more about that, in this country through Storyville. And Storyville is a huge extended family of impoverished filmmakers, TV executives, amateurs of documentary. But the thing you have to remember about this project is that it has grown to truly gigantic proportions, which has surprised me and alarmed me and delighted me month by month out of the 3 or 4 years it's taken to pull all this together. I think that Why Poverty is the biggest attempt to date to get people to think about global poverty, and it is totally international. I've got people to think, but to thank. But what I'll try to do as I thank them, I won't do what, you know, the Oscars, you're told you only have 30 seconds and you mustn't mention your mother. Well, my mother died before I could have anything to do with this, but I'm afraid this is going to take a lot longer than 30 seconds. But what I'll try to do is tell you about the project as I thank people. The films are going to launch on BBC One, but you'll see most of them on BBC 4. But they'll also be on BBC Radio, Radio 4, Radio 3, and more importantly, I think in the end, they'll go out to the rest of the world in 71 broadcasters to date, and one of the principal of these will be BBC World News. So there are going to be many millions of viewers on BBC World News, and a debate has been filmed that I attended in Johannesburg. The recording of it was Zainab Badawi, and this was the debate that you may recall where Bishop Tutu refused to appear with Tony Blair. So you won't see Bishop Tutu on the debate, which is a pity, but you will see Tony Blair, but he's actually talking about poverty rather than about wealth, which you might think was a more fitting subject for him to address these days. But there we go. Tony Blair on poverty will remain for me like a sort of cameo of my career. I've got to start by thanking everyone at Storyville. And I'm actually going to ask you just quickly to get up, as I do. Kate Townsend, Sinead Scotland, Joe Lapping, they're at the back. Thank you. Thank you so much for putting up with my own madness. And my colleagues Jason Emerton, Dawn Cleaver, and Angelique Brooke. Jason, you know, this would never have gotten done without you. Thank you so much. Jason is the business brains behind Storyville, and this has led him into a lot of peculiar places in the last 10 years. Also from the BBC, sorry, I must thank Tony Phillips, Hugh Levinson, who's here, of BBC Radio, Mary Wilkinson of BBC World News, and Emma Diath of BBC World News as well. And from the Open University, who've been great and generous patrons of this project, I must thank Caroline Ogilvie, Helen Yanakopoulos, who supplied Totally brilliant, disciplined academic notes. None of the rest of us have a clue really what we were doing for much of the project, but Helen's notes were quite brilliant, quite perspective. Helen, please stand up, take a bow, and Louisa Millard. I have two special thank yous. Firstly, for Naomi Gwyn. Please, Naomi, if you can get to your feet, it's going to have a baby tomorrow, and will be on the cover. On the cover, if you please, of the Guardian Saturday Review in 2 weeks' time. That's correct, Naomi? I got the date right, yes. And Pauline Carnet, who did a lot of factual... Pauline, please, you know, who's the only French sociologist I've ever met who also looks like a French 1960s pop star. I want to thank Gigi and Carl, please, who helped us with our Chinese film, and Gigi edited it, and they took me to a fantastic place in Wuhan, where the film is set, right? And from the Frontline Club, I want to thank the steadfastness of Vaughan Smith and Millicent Teasdale, who put up with really amazing antics on our behalf, on the BBC's behalf. Okay. At the BBC, various people who love this project have left, like Mark Thompson and Caroline Thompson, but Richard Klein is still present, to my certain knowledge, though he's at Heathrow at the moment, and he first encouraged us, but we were also helped by George Entwistle, Charlotte Moore, and Emma Swain. I want to thank in advance The Observer, because The Observer is part of the Guardian newspaper group, as you know, and they're running a supplement based on why poverty. And what we have to remember about The Observer and the Guardian is they've become, along with the BBC, along with the stricken BBC, the principal means of distribution of international news and comment in this country. So thank you to The Observer. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank Kate Calloway. Why Poverty has a website that has been set up by Steps International, more of that later, but it's run by Sophie Tennyson. So, Sophie, will you get to your feet? And thank you in advance, Sophie. Okay, my hope, having spent so much for the last 2.5 years, 3 years on this project, is that this style of doing things, which involves many diverse hands, many associated groups, many combinations of talent, will become more prevalent in contemporary media. I think it's the way that public broadcasters can have an impact globally as well as locally. So I think that Why Poverty is a piece of the future. And what I may have said in exasperation endlessly from time to time, I think it's been one of the best experiences of my professional life. It hasn't been fun exactly, it's been something else. I'm not sure what the right adjective is. Maybe hell, but rather good. That sounds appropriately English and understated. But I'd rather you heard more about the connection between Steps International and Why Poverty from Meta Hoffman. With another colleague, Don Edkins, who as we speak is somewhere in the midst of Lesotho. She's worked with me for 3 years. Meta works at DR, and she's on the board of STEPS, which is the organization that commissioned this project, a foundation created in Copenhagen. I think what you have to remember about Meta is she comes from Jutland, and people who come from Jutland are tireless. They're never content with the second best. And as I explained to a group of Danes at the UN when we launched there, I am convinced that the missionaries never got to Jutland. They have basically pagan, dark age values. If you cross them, they chop you off the legs. They take no prisoners. But they are capable of astonishing, enduring loyalty, and that's what Meta brought to this project. So I'm just not going to ask Meta to come up and say some words from her perspective about Why Poverty. Are you getting more from me, I'll ask? No, you got that. Okay.
I think. Hello? Yeah, it works. It's good.
Good.
What do you want me to talk about?
Whatever you feel like.
Okay. Yeah, I can kill a lot of people in a very short time, but I want to thank Nick very much for his endless work on this project. As you all know, this film and the quality of this series and the quality of the films will never have happened had Nick not been so involved. And it's just amazing how he can pull films up from together with the filmmakers. But I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'm really happy to be here. Why poverty has come really far. I don't know why Nick has only worked 2.5 to 3 years, because I worked 4 years on this, but maybe we have something with time, or maybe it's psychological time, I'm not sure. But we did in 2007, we launched the Why Democracy. It was a global project, just a bit like this, where a lot of public broadcasters worked together. It was seen by 250 million people around the world. And we were really encouraged by all the reactions we got from people around the world. I remember I got a mail from Taiwan and saying that thank you for a whole selection of films, different voices on democracy that we can see and we can discuss from in a country with a new democracy. I got mails from Arab countries and Arab people saying that, you know, it was amazing. I also have to say that MBC, who is also our partner in this project, they showed all these films about democracy. And we got quite a lot of reactions there in countries where there were at the time no democracy, and maybe there isn't still. History will tell us. It was fantastic one day when I got a suitcase to my office from Brazil, it turns out. It was a very heavy package. We unwrapped it. It was an old-fashioned brown suitcase, and it said Por que Democracia, and inside this suitcase was all the 10 films, translated, of course, into Portuguese. This suitcase was sent out to villages and schools and high schools and universities with the Constitution of Brazil and all this education material. And they reckon screened by more than 1.5 million children and, in Brazil. So there was a lot of fantastic reactions, and we thought, should we do that again? And it was a lot of work also with Why Democracy, but we thought it's worth it. And we discussed what would be the future topic, and I think I came up with poverty. And actually I thought the gap at the time, but we decided on poverty, and it was hard in the beginning to convince Nick that poverty was something that he could actually work with or for 4 years, but finally we got there. So together with our partners, we decided to go ahead, and with the tools and the ideas from Why Democracy, we knew I forgot where I've got to. You have to remember that English is my 5th language, so I apologize. So the Why Poverty came along because I always wondered, with 50, 60 years of NGO and AIDS, why there's still a billion people living in extreme poverty, while 400 million children go to bed hungry every night. Why there's an increase of inequality in a world where we're actually better in producing. More vividly, how is it that the 3 richest men in the world earn more than the 47 poorest countries put together? So that was one of the reasons for poverty. In the past 4 years, Nick and me, and have traveled the globe to find and produce 8 empowering stories that I believe can touch people through their honesty. I've also talked to broadcasters all around the world, and we wanted to create a true global dialogue with the starting point from the film. There was one country that we didn't have a deal with. My daughter and I, we were going to Kathmandu for a wedding. My Charlotte is here. She's been helping me a lot with lots of things. But we were going to a wedding. We had 2 days in Delhi, and we did not have an Indian broadcaster. So I said to Charlotte, we should not go and look at all these poor people in Delhi. We would rather see if we can convince and find the Director General from Doordarshan, the biggest broadcaster in India. And you all know that we are told there's 7 telephone calls to any person in the world. I have to say we used 9, and talked in the process to the former Miss Delhi, who was very helpful, and through her we actually got a really good contact. So we, 4 hours before we were leaving, we had a meeting with Mr. Sharan from Doordarshan, and they are now our partners, and they will show all the films in India. I'm also, what is it I'm proud of? I'm very proud of many things. I'm proud of we will kick off in November. And today, actually, there's a very nice little story, is that we did not have, we had Spanish TV as a partner. But then you all know about the Spanish financial crisis, and they were asked not to do more contracts 1st of January last year, and they could not enter into any agreements, so they were out. We had Catalan TV and so. But today they wrote that they can actually just manage to be a partner, and they will also can afford to market it, and so TVE is back in. So I think we now have 72. Have I talked too much?
No.
Okay. Okay. So what we will do is we will reach individuals in Zambia, in Taiwan, in Colombia, all over the world, from Korea and everywhere. There will be many more activities than just broadcast. And for instance, in all of South America, the films will be shown on squares. Country my own, we will show the films in libraries all over. 1,300 libraries in Denmark will show one of the films and have debates afterwards. What I'm really proud of is also that we have the biggest channel in Africa, satellite channel, and we also have, I think now, 14 terrestrial African broadcasters. So the films will really be seen all over the world, and as it is now, conservatively estimated, and we have not included Indonesian TV and India because we don't know how to calculate this enormous amount of people. So, but 500 million people, at least, and it's a very conservative estimate. And you know, it's 1 billion eyeballs, a lot. Yeah. So it is a true global dialogue, and we hope that. That there will be a lot of, discussions locally and globally. So today we're here to celebrate the 8 films, and we will explore much more. But Nick will tell you about what's coming up, and I just want to thank you all for coming, and Nick will thank all the filmmakers who are here and everybody who has been involved. So thank you.
Okay, we got a screening coming up, but I'm going to talk you through 4 of the trailers, 3 of which the filmmakers are here. Land Rush is about a country I dare say you know nothing about, except there's a civil war going on in the north, right, Hugo? Rise, Hugo? Hugo Buckley. And Tom Roberts as well as the executive producer. Yeah, let's see the first trailer, please.
Hungry and angry, another food riot breaks out on the streets in Algeria.
The world food crisis is growing.
For the millions of people around the world struggling to buy the most basic of foodstuffs, these are desperate times.
Rich countries are racing to buy and lease agricultural land abroad and secure their food supplies for the future.
Africa, known for its fertile land and low-priced agricultural real estate, has become the target of wealthy investors.
Vous ne pouvez tout prendre à un paysan, tout, mais pas sa terre. Parce que la terre, c'est la seule chose que le paysan possède.
The question is, who owns Africa? Who owns the land? Is it the ordinary farmers or is it their governments?
Peasants don't own their land. They date from a time before there was land ownership. So they're vulnerable to any force of the state or a company that can come in and literally pull the resources out from under their feet. Any scheme for development that doesn't ask the subjects of development what they want, how they want to live, is not development.
Ah, Anche. Ça va bien? We're bringing the small farmer into the value chain. We're actually creating a new class of commercial farmers.
Amit Santa and Sigmo Biami Seneca Mona, Amatia Aglas, Amit Senkopla Tani. Osromin Bana, Okosango, Mushen Gitan, Angabailama.
Lego Felisrola, E Mugaya Takala, E Fire Takala, E Rebecca Takala, Sanji Metawilicata, Mara Roquaya Diangadu. Work on Natadu. Mindy Bat Willy, the chair de Atipa. Mama Boke, Haglita to
I think two things these films do is they give you, as this last trailer shows, an extraordinary range of voices, people you can't hear from, don't hear from, wouldn't hear from, and the 30 shorts accompanying them do even more of that. You can get a brochure when you go out that tells you about all this, but in one film we decided to approach the question of what is poverty? How do you ever understand what it is like to be poor when you've never been poor, in a different way historically? And we did through this very clever animation film, which is a Dutch collaboration with British director Ben Lewis. Please, Ben, where are you? Good, Ben. It's called Poor Us, and the trailer will explain what it does.
Virtually everybody in the world was poor. Lack of infrastructure, massive disease burden.
Famine prevention, flood control were the essential tasks of the rulers.
We begin to perceive poverty as something natural, something inevitable.
Nobody thought that you would abolish poverty. Poverty was simply accepted as a fact of life.
It's the way the world works. Essentially, poverty is what makes the rich rich.
The Industrial Revolution has set the world on a course. Science and technology.
Social housing.
Agricultural productivity.
Revolutionary movements.
A bit of free market ideology.
It is possible to make major dents in poverty.
Okay, the question of whether and how you are born and where you're born determines the rest of your life is addressed in a film by Lisa Levens and Brian Hill. Rise, please, or put your hands up. It's called Welcome to the World. It will be known under this title through most of the world, but on BBC One it will be called 4 Born Every Second. So next trailer, please. Ask.
I don't think that women have necessarily more difficult births than in other places. I think the problem is their lack of access to medical care. It's not hugely expensive. The interventions that we do are not hugely difficult to do.
It's something we want to show to the world, to the developing world, that it can be done.
The gap between those that have and those that don't have is really growing. The common denominator is poverty.
In these films, we've tried to encompass as wide a range of filmmaking styles as possible, but the next one I want to show you the trailer of is Park Avenue by Alex Gibney, American filmmaker, Oscar winner. And I think it's quite rare. Normally when you see journalism written out of rage or filmmaking made out of rage, it's normally not successful. But Alex has made a film about what has become central to the American elections and is central to Americans' consideration of their future, which is inequality. And it's called Park Avenue. Next trailer.
This is where our money is. People lost their homes in the banking and mortgage crisis, and it went here.
740 Park became the epicenter of the people who ruled the world, truly the masters of the universe. They all live at 740 Park. You've got David Koch, the richest person in the building, and Steve Schwartzman, the poster child of capitalistic greed.
There are some in society that have a lot of access, a lot of social mobility, a lot of resources, as opposed to other people who are more disadvantaged, more underprivileged, don't have the same levels of resources.
They think if you work harder, if you seize opportunities, then you should be able to get ahead.
We're not that kind of society anymore.
Money talks in American politics today. Those at the top have done well. They've invested in policies that are favorable to them, and they've done even better, and then they've churned a lot of that money back into politics.
There is so much financing of political campaigns. There are so many bought politicians.
Millions of dollars for Republican politicians.
More than $50 million, for example, to lobby in Washington since 2006.
Money is being used to buy results. That is the problem. That's how I used money.
Jack Abramoff has pled guilty to federal corruption charges.
They influence American politics on a completely different dimension than anybody else.
We want the maximum freedom to launch businesses, create opportunity, and expand prosperity.
They feel they need not $10 billion, but $20 billion of wealth. America became a place where money buys everything.
The idea of the American dream is that everyone's got an equal opportunity. You just got to decide to play.
It doesn't seem to accept the possibility that if you're poor enough and your schooling is bad enough, you don't really have an opportunity to compete.
I find it hard to be an optimist right now for people who want to support their families through work and can't.
Well, we come now to the main treat of the evening, which is a brilliant and beautiful film called Solar Mamas, which I will leave to speak for itself, except I wish to bemoan the fact that Mona Aldayef and the producer Meta Haider and the editor Jean Chen are not here, but however, Jehan Nujain is here, yes, and I hope you love the film as much as we do. I'm sure you will.